lost continent. Hashtag land off Mu. Hashtag Lemuria. Hashtag the Mar you know. When we hear the word Moor, the first thoughts by many are Islam and Muslims. However, as we go back further in time, we see that there is a homonym, Mar, with another meaning from long before. Let's explore the most recent use of the word, and then journey back to prehistory, during times that are said to be antiquity. So, let's begin in the Dark Ages, over 700 years of darkness. The Moors, rulers of Europe. Moor, N, North African, Berber, late 14th C, from Old French Moor, from medieval Latin Moris, from Latin Moris inhabitant of Mauritania, Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco, from Greek Moros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate with Moros black. Being a dark people in relation to Europeans, their name in the Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro, later, 16th C, 17th C, used indiscriminately of Muslims, Persians, Arabs, etc., but especially those in India. Blackamoor, N, dark-skinned person, 1540s, from black, adjective, plus Moor, with connecting element. Early 16th century, from black plus Moor. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word Moor as commonly supposed to be mostly black or very swarthy. In the Middle Ages during the 17th century, the word is often used interchangeably with Negro. In the words of Dr. Chancellor Williams, the original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were black Africans. Pause. According to the Stuart synopsis, in the early 8th century, troops of Moorish soldiers arrived from Africa into Spain, Portugal, and France. Soon after their arrival, the Moors conquered Europe. It is said that the Christians of early Europe regarded the ethnicity of the Moors as black-skinned people, and many sources support this fact. For example, Morian is the adventure of the heroic Moorish knight, who was supposed to have lived during the days of King Arthur. Morian is described as all black. His head, his body, and his hands were all black. In the French epic known as the Song of Roland, the Moors are described as blacker than ink. William Shakespeare used the word Moor as a synonym for African. Christopher Marlowe used African and Moor interchangeably. Arab writers further buttressed the black identity of the Moors. The powerful Moorish emperor Yusuf ben Tikfin is described by an Arab chronicler as a brown man with woolly hair. Black soldiers, specifically identified as Moors, were actively recruited by Rome, and served in Britain, France, Switzerland, Austria, Hungary, Poland, and Romania. Saint Maurice, patron saint of medieval Europe, was only one of many black soldiers and officers under the employ of the Roman Empire. After the invasion of 711 AD, hundreds of even darker Moors came. It was this occupation of Portugal which accounts for the fact that even noble families had absorbed the blood of the Moor. From then on, racial mixing in Portugal, Spain, and other places in Europe increased under the influence of Moors. This is why many historians claim that Portugal is in reality a Negroid land, and when Napoleon stated that Africa begins at the Pyrenees, he meant every word that he said. Even the world-famed shrine in Portugal, Fatima, where Catholic pilgrims from all over the world go in search of miracle cures for their afflictions, owes its origin to the Moors. The story goes that a Portuguese nobleman was so saddened by the death of his wife, a young Moorish beauty whom he had married after her conversion to the Christian faith, that he gave up his title and fortune and entered a monastery. His wife was buried on a high plateau called Sierra de Air. It is from there the name of Fatima is derived. The Moors ruled and occupied Lisbon and the rest of the country until well into the 12th century. They were finally defeated and driven out by the forces of King Alfonso Henriques, who was aided by English and Flemish crusaders. The scene of this battle was the Castello de São Jorge, or, in English, the Castle of St. George. Today it still stands overlooking the city of Lashbana as the Moors named Lisbon.
You talk more shit than a little bit. Back to Mother Africa. That's bullshit. Without question, we are all black Americans. You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
And Indians were both colonized by the British. But the Indians rejected the British culture. They rejected the British religion. They rejected the British food. They rejected the British way of doing things and hold on to the British technology. You know, and then we have the Nigerians, that is us Africans, accepted the British culture, the British dress code, the British food, the British every religion, and rejected the British technology. Now that is where the Indians are the most advanced. They don't need to speak English to make a cell phone. Yeah, but me and you are colonized to believe that the more you speak a better English,
you can clean it.
You are intelligent. But a perfect English is not a mark of intelligence, a mark of linguistic ability. But we were colonized to believe that because you speak a perfect English, therefore You are intelligent. But how many perfect English speakers among us invented anything?
Okay.
How many PhDs who congregate at Capellos and all of those places every evening and drinking and tell you how they got their PhD from Harvard and so forth? People are having a PhD in engineering. Their grandmothers are busy drinking water with goats. They can't make water reticulation machine. How many of our English-speaking PhDs
holders
invented anything?
France forced Haiti to pay reparations to slaveholders after the country declared independence. In the 1700s, through the labor of enslaved indigenous and black people, Haiti, known then as Saint-Domingue, became France's most. Did you know France forced Haiti to pay reparations to slaveholders after the country declared independence? In the 1700s, through the labor of enslaved indigenous and black people, Haiti, known then as Saint-Domingue, became France's most profitable colony. The labor and punishments were so brutal that many people died within a few years of being forced into enslavement. Eventually, formerly enslaved Africans led the Haitian Revolution, defeated the French army, and ended slavery on the island. And in 1804, they declared independence and renamed Saint-Domingue Haiti. But France threatened to attack Haiti and lobbied other countries not to trade with the nation until it agreed to pay for so-called lost revenues from slavery. Reparations totaling at least an estimated $573 million in today's money were paid to slaveholders by the formerly enslaved people. The French King Charles X knew the payment was too much for Haiti. As part of his plan, he forced Haiti into taking out loans from French banks. While draining Haiti's wealth, one of the banks profited so much that it was able to help finance the Eiffel Tower. To pay off their debt, Haitians had extremely high taxes. Most of the country's tax revenue was used to pay back France, leaving its education system, public infrastructure, and healthcare underdeveloped. There wasn't even enough food for everyone on the island because agricultural land was depleted to grow cash crops like coffee, cotton, and indigo. Historians say the payments over time cost the Haitian economy the equivalent of $21 billion. It took Haiti over 100 years to pay off its debt. But France wasn't the only country involved in the destabilization of Haiti. The US took the baton from the French colonists in the 20th century. Follow for part 2 to learn more.
See, the Ku Klux Klan wasn't born under the Confederate flag. It was born under the Stars and Stripes. The White Circle League and the Citizens Council and the lynchings. They weren't under the Confederacy, they were under the Stars and Stripes. When they sent you to Germany to fight, and you couldn't get no justice, that wasn't under the flag of the Confederacy, that was under the flag of the Stars and Stripes. When they broke up black organizations and killed our leaders, that wasn't under the flag of the Confederacy, that was under the flag of the United States.
There was an amalgamation also between colonials. I mean, that happened. Matter of fact, that was one of the things that William Byrd, who was involved in a dividing line between Virginia and North Carolina, and Alexander Spotswood was trying to amalgamate Native people with other races to get rid of the Indians. Yeah. Now, when you look at the Byrd papers, and you would read his diary on April the 7th, 1728, he actually visited our reservation in Jerusalem, Cortland, Virginia. And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a gore drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided. And they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went. Let me get this point. He went on to say that these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. Unquote. That's a quote that he made. First Americans were a rich brown people. They were mahogany in color.
All right, so real quick, I just want to show you guys that the chief, he ain't making this up. This is from primary sources, what he was referring to. was William Byrd's account of his experience with the Nottoway Indians, as the chief was saying, his people, back in the 1700s. I'm going to read from this book. It says, William Byrd's Histories of the Dividing Line between Virginia and North Carolina, with introduction and notes by William K. Boyd, Ph.D., Professor of History, Duke University. We got this from 1929, the North Carolina Historical Commission. So we're on page 114 of this book. So this is William Byrd's account of the Nottoway Indians in the 1700s in this village of the chief's ancestors. He was telling the lady. The young men had painted themselves, right? In a hideous manner. Hideous to him, right? Not so much for ornament as terror. In that frightful equipage, they entered us with sundry war dances, all right? Just like the chief was saying, the war dances, with their painted faces and war dances, right? Wherein they endeavored to look as formidable as possible. The instrument they danced to was an Indian drum, all right? A war drum. That is a large gourd with a skin brag toward over the mouth of it. The dancers all sang to this music, keeping exact time with their feet, while their heads and arms were screwed into 1,000 menacing postures. All right, so I described the men, now I was going to describe the women. Upon this occasion, the ladies had arrayed themselves in all their finery. They were wrapped in their red and blue mesh coats, all right, wrapped, thrown so negligently about them that their mahogany skins, all right, their mahogany skins appeared in several parts, just like the chief was saying. They're describing them, Indians, his people, the Nottoway, having mahogany skins. Now, you know, when you look up mahogany wood or mahogany color, what you're going to get is literally reddish brown, right? Red man, brown, reddish brown, all right? Brown, dark brown, almost like the copper color, right? Mahogany, mahogany. And this is mahogany too. Mahogany.
Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Ivan van Sertima. Nature's Knows No Color Line, by J.A. Rogers. These African Moors conquered Europe and left their marks to this day during their 700-year reign, which ended in the 15th century. Many noted scholars agree that Moorish advances in mathematics, astronomy, art, and agriculture helped propel the West out of the Dark Ages and into the Renaissance. What emerges is a richly detailed portrait of a sensuous, inquisitive, and remarkably progressive culture in Europe, with hundreds of detailed paintings, sculptures, and artifacts left behind as reminders of the era of the melanated kings, queens, dukes, popes, and other nobility of Europe. MU, Lemuria, MERS. MU, Lemuria, a continent located in the Pacific Ocean area or the Pacific Ring of Fire. Lemuria and Mu are interchangeable names given to a lost land believed to have been located somewhere in the southern Pacific Ocean. This ancient continent was apparently the home of an advanced and highly spiritual culture, perhaps the mother race of all mankind, that was said to have sunk beneath the waves many thousands of years ago as the result of a geological cataclysm. The thousands of rocky islands scattered throughout the Pacific, including Easter Island, Tahiti, Hawaii, and Samoa, have been claimed by some to be the only surviving remains of this once great continent. The theory of a lost continent in this area has been put forward by many different people, most notably in the mid-19th century by scientists in order to explain the unusual distribution of various animals and plants around the Indian and Pacific Oceans. But is there any physical evidence to back up these claims of an ancient continent beneath the ocean? The land of Mu. In his book Sacred Mysteries Among the Mayans and Quiches, 1886, and Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx, 1896, Plongeon interpreted part of the text of the Troana Codex as revealing that the Maya of Yucatan were the ancestors of the Egyptians and many other civilizations. He also believed that an ancient continent, which he called Mu, had been destroyed by a volcanic eruption, the survivors of this cataclysm founding the Mayan civilization. When the land was called Mu, via MERS.com, http://mers.com/mers/home.html. Mar is the ancient name for the original people of the earth, based on ancient teachings of the indigenous people of the Washita, Washita, River Valley and its tributaries. The indigenous, aboriginal peoples of this part of the Americas recognize ourselves as Mers, the mound builders of Mu. Western history labeled us as Washita Indians and our indigenous family of the Caribbean islands as West Indians, but we all did not migrate here from the subcontinent of India. We are the indigenous mound builders of this land. And yes, we love and respect our ancient Indian family of the Ganges and Indus River Valley region, including the ancient Dravidians and indigenous Dalits, who are still marginalized in a caste system that has been institutionalized since colonial times, but but is slowly eroding into justice for females and the darker people of ancient, indigenous heritage. We are one people sharing one God with our indigenous brothers and sisters of Asia, Africa, Europe, Australia, and all the Pacific Islanders of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Our ancestors teach us that Mu/Mu, pronounced Mu, is the indigenous name of the land. Mu is all matter, maternal purpose, divine matrimony, living, increasing, viewable life, procreation, effort for more. We are Mu. The most ancient people called ourselves Mar, Mutu, Amd Muntu. One ancient word for the creator was Mungu. Mu is the root. Long before names like America, Africa, Asia, or Europe, the aboriginal humans call the land Mu. We are Murs. The Honorable Mr. and Mrs., Madam et Monsieur. Mu, Ma, Mo, Mer, Mar, Moor, Mur, Mower, Moor. First thing we say each day, good morning. The ancestors teach about the respect more recent civilizations have for Mu. A Judeo-Christian symbol for Mu has been a calf or a cow with a sun disk. We still see this demonstrated by the ancient use of the cow as a sacred symbol, and the important role cattle played in early commerce and spiritual life. Even Abram, who later changed his name to Abraham, had Chaldean parents in the city of Ur who worshipped a sacred cow, Hathor. Later, when followers of Moses lost faith while in the wilderness, they returned to the worship of what? A golden calf. And still, the morning beverage of choice is, of course, mom's or cow's milk. The Washita have never worshipped any animals, planets nor man. We have faith in the almighty creator of heaven and earth. We believe in one love, Amor. Today, we can find a myriad of variations and representations for the name Mar. Moor, Moors, Moor, Muir, Mora, Moro, Mer, Mary, Morenos, Mohawk, Americanos, Maroons, Mulattoes, Maimi, Maya, Mayaka, Zamika, Matamora, Micmac, MC/Mac, Mr., Ms. and Mrs., just to name a few. To all Murs, true and faithful, everyone on the planet has Marish roots. We are all seeds of the original man and Wo-MB man God created on the planet in the valley of the mountain of the moon. We know the Meshajiabi, Mississippi Valley, the Amazon, and the Nile Valley, River Hopi, were once together, parts of one land from Morocco and the Sahara to Mexico. From the wall of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. It may take a few more years before the world is ready to accept the truth about our story, but the time has come to embrace the harmonies of life shared by each of us. Every his story teaches the first people of the earth started in the Nile River Valley, near the equator.
The term Moor started to become interchangeable with the term black because it was basically the same thing. But when the slave trade started, they tried to objectify black people, Moorish people. So they would use the term interchangeably and they would just switch on to calling people black. But if you look at a lot of old documents, there's even slave ships called Blackamoor. If you look at slave records, there was even a boxer out of Virginia who was very popular in the early 1800s named Tom Molyneux, and his nickname was the Moor. So that name was definitely used interchangeably with black or Negro at that time.
Moor means black, like Negro, Ethiopian. Moor means black. Moor is not a people. Moor is a color. That they have taken this word Moor and they have associated Moor with Muslim. There were Moors that weren't Muslim. Moor means black. There were Christian Moors. There were Moors that practiced a traditional African faith system. So that Moor means black, simple.
When the Moors went into Europe, they changed the appearance of the population. Do you see? So you have Italians, Spaniards being darker than the Scandinavians. A Scandinavian person told me that they never considered the Italians or Jewish people to be white. Do you see? Because the lighter people are further north.
When I went to Europe, I would always look at pictures and I would always see a Moor, and sometimes I would see like a skull and bones. And many of the Moors would have a skull and bones flag. That's what pirates are known for. There were many Moorish pirates. There was even a Barbary War where they were, the U.S. was fighting Moorish pirates up in North Africa and the Barbary Coast. And there's even a secret organization called the Skull and Bones. And we know that Masonry comes from Moorish science. So there's always a connection there with the Moors.
And it's important that as we begin to develop an understanding of this society, that it's not Freemason as we know it, and that the Moors brought in this knowledge into Europe. Africans brought this knowledge into Europe. And in bringing this knowledge into Europe, the Knights Templars and other organizations were born out of this. And peoples of European descent were exposed to alchemy, okay? The periodic table of elements, the laboratory, how to take information, how to take elements and atoms and to begin to manipulate them to make them into different types of molecules. The basic one is hydrogen, 2 hydrogen is helium, 3 hydrogen is lithium, 6 is carbon, 8 is oxygen. So you have this alchemy that's going to come, and they're going to begin to study, they're going to begin to learn, they're going to create societies that's going to develop an understanding. This is going to be what eventually is going to become Freemasonry, because only a select group of people in Europe is going to be exposed to this information.
But the secret of Masonry, of who we really are, the Moors, is being here on this land, this particular land, because it was called, in many names, you had Turtle Island, that we called it, or Tula, or El Marak, the different terms that we had. And the original map of America was written by a guy named Idrisi. The original map was written in Sanskrit.
Antarctica was actually mapped by a Moor. And most people don't know it was mapped by a Moor. And they have old topographical evidence of old maps of Antarctica. That's why the Nazis fled there, because they knew that there were places there under the ice that they could actually inhabit and hide.
Americans. The European colonists took over and started calling themselves Americans and started changing the history, saying that they brought us here. We were always here. We were always here. You've got pyramid kuntas in Central South America that are older than the pyramids in Giza in Misraim that the people call Egypt. Older. You've got civilization principles that are here in Lower Egypt that you call Kentucky and Tennessee area that is older than they are in what you call Egypt. But those things are held secret because they don't want these people to know that they're the heirs apparent to this land, so they branded them Negro, black, and colored to cut off the linear history. So when the people think they're Negro, black, and colored, they can't tie to the illustrious history of the founders of civilization. As a matter of fact, they keep trying to leave and everybody else trying to come here because they don't even know that this is the hub, the North Gate. We're the true Americans.